Hey guys, what's up? It is me, Berlin. I really wasn't gonna make this video tonight. I was gonna wait until tomorrow and do it, but there's been quite a lot going on since my last video on this, so I thought, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna sit down like this and talk, chat, get into it, because it's been heating up. Now, earlier today I listened to the podcast, which is called A Mouthful, which is Nick Snyder, Viewer's Voice, and Dustin Dailey. Now, I really like the dynamic between both Nick and Dustin. You know, I enjoy their content anyway on YouTube, so, you know, I subscribed to their podcast like when they first launched it, and I listened to every episode and stuff. So this one, when I saw the title, it was like the one about friendships, and I thought, oh yeah, Dustin's going to go in and talk about Rich. And he did. Now, I made a few little notes because there was a lot in this podcast. Like, it was like an hour and 15 minutes long. Not all of that was about Rich Lux, but a lot of it was. So I made some little notes because there was a lot. But the main sort of gist of it was Dustin was saying things like he'd been there for Rich Lux after he'd had his surgery. He'd said that Rich's own family weren't there for him, but yet Dustin was there taking care of Rich, doing things like even wiping his arse, all that kind of stuff, you know, just taking care of him. And it seemed that Dustin was also saying, you know, he'd been friends with Rich when Rich had like, you know, 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he'd get like 200 views on a video and all of that. And Dustin was basically just saying like, look, you know, I've befriended Rich since then, so I've been friends with Rich for a while. I've kind of seen him change into what he is now. Nick Snyder wasn't really saying too much in the podcast. He kind of sort of said, I want to stay out of it, you know, or not stay out of it, but Nick was just like, oh, you know, I don't want to say too much against Rich because, you know, he's still friends with Rich, whatever. You know, at first I thought with this whole thing, when it started on Twitter, I kind of thought that Dustin was joking a little bit. But after listening to the podcast, I was a bit more like, oh no, you know, maybe Dustin is serious about this. The one thing that Nick Snyder did say was that maybe Rich needed to humble himself a little bit and not surround himself with yes men. So, like, you know, although I felt like Nick really didn't want to say anything against Rich, he did kind of say that little bit. Oh, hey, Jasper, sorry, the dog is just walking up and down here while I'm trying to have this little chat. The basic kind of gist of what Dustin was saying about Rich was that Rich lives this kind of luxury lifestyle, but that it's a bit phony, that Rich is surrounded by people who are paid employees, that are his friends, but are people that he has on his own payroll because maybe he thinks it gives them something to do, or because he wants to keep those people around him. Then he has them as his assistants and has them on their payroll, that kind of thing. Dustin did also address Luscious Massacre. Now, Dustin was saying that Luscious Massacre isn't right about Rich, that what Luscious Massacre tries to say about Rich isn't always correct, but that he still doesn't fuck with Luscious either. So although Dustin was kind of calling Rich out, he was still calling Luscious out too. The conversation got onto the music video that Rich Lux was filming yesterday with DJ Oscar Wilde, and Nick said that he had been asked to be in the video and that he'd thought about turning up to go and make an appearance in the video, but decided not to. And Dustin, I think, also had been asked, but he declined as well. Dustin, going back to what he said about, you know, befriending Rich when he had like 5,000 subs on YouTube and would get like 200 views per video, that kind of thing. Dustin said that he used to give Rich Lux video ideas. So it seems like Dustin's saying he kind of helped to try and make Rich, but that now Rich has kind of become this exaggerated version of himself and he's living this kind of luxury lifestyle with things that he actually can't afford. At one point, Dustin was even like, oh, you know, Rich is kind of up to his eyeballs in debt, that sort of thing. So it kind of got a little bit juicy, but You know, I don't want it to be like, oh, you know, I'm taking pleasure in this, because I'm not. I enjoy both Rich and Dustin as creators separately. To me, their content isn't the same anyway. You know, they're both drama channels, of course, but then you've got Rich, who's a bit more like clowny, a bit more exaggerated. I kind of see Rich as more like a drag character rather than like a real person. Whereas Dustin, I find him very real, you know, very just like a normal everyday person. But Rich Lux, it's a bit more about the status and a bit more kind of celebrity to it, if you will, you know. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm saying, you know, they're both just a bit different. But one of the points that Dustin made was that he sort of feels like Rich almost looks down on him a little bit at the moment, which that's kind of sad, you know, if that's someone that you've kind of been with since the beginning of their kind of YouTube career, someone that you've tried to help out maybe, and now they've got to where they are and they're kind of looking down on you. That is a little bit of a bummer, you know, that is a little bit, it's going to make you feel a certain type of way, you know. Then when I was on Twitter, like early this evening, Dustin was really going in. He was like not holding back at all. He was just popping off at Rich again. So I'm going to go through some of those tweets with you and just show you what was said. And Dustin also shared some DMs from Rich about a situation which he's claiming was Rich sharing a hurricane victims GoFundMe and saying he would get Paris Hilton to donate to that GoFundMe. But Dustin mentioned yesterday that Rich doesn't even know Paris Hilton, so how could Rich be saying he was going to get Paris Hilton to donate to this girl's GoFundMe? Worth mentioning that up until this point, it had all been kind of coming from Dustin Dailey, and Rich Lux really hadn't said anything. Then this evening, Rich Lux tweeted out that he'd spoken to Jen Gerard and that he'd, you know, be checking his attitude and that he knew he could be a bit of a diva sometimes. Then Dustin tweeted out this: "If what I said wasn't right, why feel the need to tweet about you having a talk and acknowledging your deviant behaviour all of us have been telling you about for years, Rich Lux?" Yesterday I said that maybe this whole thing was a conversation that could have been had in private between Dustin and Rich, but Dustin has continued tweeting stuff out this evening. I'm going to pop some of them in here. One of them he was saying, oh, you know, don't fucking play games with me, stuff like that. So I'll pop a couple of them up here because there was a lot. As well as that, Dustin also came for Oscar Wilde, who was hanging out with Rich last night because it was Oscar's birthday. They'd gone out for a meal and Oscar had been kind of bothered about what he was wearing because he was wearing a hoodie. It was a designer hoodie, but the restaurant that they went to asked for like formal attire. So of course a hoodie is not formal attire. Anyone knows that, you know. I mean, I'm just sitting here in my scruffy old loungewear today, you know, don't mind me. I look disgusting. But if you're going to go to a restaurant and they have a dress code and the dress code is formal, then yeah, of course, they are not going to accept you in wearing a hoodie. So Dustin was kind of getting at, you know, Oscar being entitled for reacting about that situation. And then also Dustin brought up the fact that it wasn't actually Oscar's birthday. That Oscar's birthday is on the 25th, according to what he'd found online. So I don't know, you know, I don't know. It's all a bit weird. It's all a little bit strange, that situation for me. You know, maybe, you know, you said, oh, it's your birthday because, you know, your birthday's in a few days or whatever. And, you know, you kind of have a birthday week where you go and see different people or whatever it is you do. But one thing I am going to say on that is Rich and Oscar were out clubbing. And again, you know, this is a time where we're supposed to be social distancing and all of that, and they weren't doing that. So I'm going to call them out for that. But, you know, yeah, I understand it's your birthday, you want to go out, but a lot of us have had to have our birthdays in lockdown or in quarantine. So, you know, why is it one rule for people who have a large social media following and another rule for, you know, us kind of normals? You know, why is it that we have to, you know, follow the lockdown or quarantine rules, but they don't? Once again, though, I'm not taking sides by, you know, talking on the situation here. I'm just telling you, you know, what's been going on Twitter, because I know not everyone who watches YouTube has a Twitter account. At first, like I said, I thought it was a joke, but, you know, now that more and more is coming out, it's kind of not looking like a joke to me. You know, at first I thought, oh, it's Dustin just prattling around, you know, kind of making fun of Rich, but now it looks like there's actually something deeper to it, and it looks like, you know, Dustin is really serious about this. So I thought, you know what, I'll make another video on it now, and then if any more comes out on it, we can talk about it. But like, girl, the girls are fighting, you know, it's a bit like high school kind of squabbling, if you ask me, which, you know, it can be entertaining sometimes, but sometimes it's also like, oh God, you know, why don't you just go and have this conversation in private? But Dustin did address that. He did say that he's spoken to Rich in private, but that Rich takes no notice of that. So the only way to get through to Rich is to kind of blast him on social media. Which, to me, yeah, okay, it's not the best way to resolve an argument, but if you've spoken to someone multiple times, in private, in person, and they're not hearing you, they're not listening to you, then what else can you do? So, you know, I don't hate Dustin for that. You know, as I said, I enjoy both Rich and Dustin's content. You know, I'm not picking a side. I refuse to pick a side because I like them both. You know, I can see where Dustin is coming from, though, in what he's saying, that he's been there for Rich in the past, and now he feels like Rich has kind of got a bit above his station, that kind of thing. I can, you know, I can understand where Dustin's coming from. If you're someone's friend, you would feel a certain type of way. You would feel a little bit hurt. But also, you know, as I said, I see Rich as this kind of larger than life drag character. So that's the other side of the coin, you know. Let me know what you guys think. You know, I'm interested to know your opinions, if you've been keeping up with any of this at all. And I will see you on the next one. I'm going to go to bed now, and I will see you tomorrow probably. Mwah. Take care. Bye-bye, guys.